our native language, and thank Vincent for the introduction. Thank Anna for the reading. Thank her for describing me so minutely in that own poem. She was too polite to say, "You, Robert." But more than a constipation, that's me. Sometimes I wish it were a constipation too. So, the epic, I love hearing that word because it really is, as we know, just means word, epos, word. Epic is the long word. I've been working for the past 5 years or so on what now appears to be a tetralogy, a 4-part long poem, the first of which is Fire Exit, which I'll read a piece from, the second, The Uncertainties, that Vincent quoted from. The third is a piece called The Hexagon, which will be, I think, published in the spring or summer. And the fourth I'm working on now called Heartthread, which I'll read from a little bit later. So let me read, start one poem from Fire Exit, which is one that Charlotte actually tweeted the other night. She tweets these wonderful things. That reminds me of what I wrote last week or last year. I have iron things, so I get the microphone and the book and the eyes in the right way. People who lose the debate are called heretics. People who win the debate are called the police. They play the game mostly in the countryside. Gods seem touchier under elms, or down among the pagan elders. Godlings sulk until you touch. They love us best when we desire. Don't even have to desire them, he said. Even me will serve. Oh, love, he cried. Oh, where the subject is lost in the object. Oh, the sublation of our reluctancy into plain passion. We are not sure of our desire. We insist on it. Love, oh, great testing round of want. Oh, love is always changing the subject, kissing my cheek 20 years later and saying, you, clearly in my ears, so that it stays there. Like the feel of a hip where my hand rests, he said. Then there was breathed into me that numberless information I require. Relays opening and closing, old-fashioned dream machine. A haptine stimulates my fingertip. This is what the ancients called creatio mundi, not a thing that dares to happen only once. The cosmogonic time is every moment. The primal scene arrives in front of you whenever you open your pretty eyes, this game all full of goneness. That's from Fire Exit. I'm going to read from the second of that set. Fire Exit is written in 3-line stanzas, Uncertainties in 2-line stanzas, the lines having those same relations that Vincent so pointedly quoted. And speaking of epic, this is one I had picked to read tonight anyway, but 64 from Uncertainties. The world's a lot of money for a family quarrel. We're the garage where someone's auto is stored. We are mice in the shadows of machine. We have all our sciences to ease anxieties, our poesies to speed us to sleep. Sometimes big doors open by themselves, it seems. Light floods in the dirty little window only hinted at. We stand astonished as the thing rolls in. All history is scarred of such arrivals, prizes for meekness and desuetude. The earth shall inherit the earth. So Isis woke and looked about her. She still is looking. We call it our thinking. It is she who haunts our neurology, hunting for the absent gesture, father power lost, somewhere in our mess of meat. She plucks the strings of me. You too, muchacha. All the girl in us stands like the man she lost. Then Osiris wakes. Oh, so is us. We are children we pretend don't understand. You don't need any other book but this. It's all in here. Only the stories are left out. To move to more recent work. I love to read new stuff, readings, stuff I haven't read before. Give you a sense of what I'm up to lately. So I'll read a couple of sections of it, couple of sections from that fourth part of the long poem called Heartthread. Heartthread, hexagon yet to be published, is in one-line stanzas, one line, pure one-line by itself. But each group of 6 is gathered together to represent, imagine a dice or a cube, one line on each side of each face of the cube so that it could turn any which way. Nonetheless, they're grouped that way. What have I forgotten to bring? Tempting me to go wrong. The sonata Heartthread is in 12-line stanzas, sort of castrated sonnets. Circumcised would be a great sort of word. I never knew anything. It was all made up, all bluff and prophecy, willful history of our feigned race, imaginary archive of testicular witness. None of the cathedrals were real. None of the bridges, skating rinks, nudist beaches, stock markets, rainstorms on Machu Picchu. All loving lies are made for you. All Plotinus, all Shakespeare, Nachamadi, the lotus garden where the princes yawned, brass basins of the temple, the rights of man, national debt, all lies and all for you. Where is this up I asked you to use me to? A seashell in the sky, a grammatical awkwardness, Bruno's cavatina in music, someone's bound to die. We all are victims of perceiving. But what image is it that lingers in the dying mind? That is the real question about death. What do we go out with, wearing our curious inherited garments? What symbol nestled in the socket of the throat? So many things to remember, only one to carry with me. What is the mind before perceiving? The deep and simple well in which no star shines. Successiveness dissolves in clang. All the notes played at once of what will be a song. To use the simplest word for it, a word though now sick with commercial implication, song as commodity is the root of war. Copyright is blasphemy. All of these words are yours to begin with. I just got in the way on their way to you. Shall we end at the Milvian Bridge, where they began to confuse Christ with Caesar? Oh, throw that denarius away. His face is in the sky. No, his face is your face when you wake up. knowing that I was going to read with Anna tonight, whom I was happy to meet for the first time, knowing her work, I thought it wouldn't be bad if I weighed in on the political a little bit too. Because lately it becomes hard not to. I've written over the past couple of years a series of poems called, with no originality whatever, Elegy. A few have been published in conjunctions. This is a recent one called Straw. On the road by the brickyard, the sweet fragrance of straw dust and the heart of an oven, cooling down already for the weekend, and who am I, bothers me again. When I should be content with the shadow of that woman in the corner, where Liberty Avenue breaks into Queens, and the fish are frying every Friday, but I'm not. That woman is gone long ago on her own occasions. Mother of 9, mother of some new redeemer hurries to our side to wake me from my questions into the cool water of reasonable doubt. The lawyers call it that. They have a name for every unimportant thing. My life, your soul, the shadow of your shoulders, soft on the sidewalk, left in the mind. No matter how many years, the manumission of memory, I appeal to the court. Forget me, in the forgiveness that is like fire. What did they use to fire their ovens, to bake the bricks, the ruddy mud, strengthened with straw? For the least thing holds the mass together. Straw from upstate, from where I am now. And the sumptuous meadows crowd with grass, and the corn stalks of November, and the smell of straw, on which the ram and his kindred bed down to sleep. The sheep of Württemberg idle on the hill, virtuously grazing on the actual. And I smell the straw of Brooklyn, straw, an immigrant like all the rest of us, Samuel and Owen and Thomas, straw, straw. And in the earth, even the memories do not abandon. We taste the dead inside the roots of what we eat. The dead inside us take flight in our music, give their sermons in our dim poetries, and to them we speak and write and carve something into something else, and call it ours. We are theirs, straws left over from their grassy days, from their wheat and barley, the sloppy music we remember from all their decent intervals, tonus peregrinus, neumes of a song half sung through crying. So who am I said, meaning, what do I remember? All that happened in and around me is another animal, one more running away over a hill I can't follow. They throw straw on the fire, make smoke. The smoke tells them things, smoke signals from the Vatican. No, the broken down old Irishmen who landed in Vinland, carrying their silence and their crucifixes, who lived among the Indians and said no word, monks all of them, womanless, childless, wordless in God's silence. What was there to say? They had huddled over little fires, tossed dry grass in for some sweet smoke, or in autumn, cold like now, roared their fires with husks and cobs and straw, cob for the slow and straw for the blaze, and were content. We live in their smoke. All the beautiful old confusions of Europe, idle force, Odic, Christian values, chivalry, blue flower, swirled in their campfires, monks, madmen. What did they leave behind them to infect us when we, in our turn, got washed up on this shore? Venus Mercenaria, the common clam, by the millions even in these scant salt waters of the Hudson, their names on everything. And what would be the Latin for this hour? Cold knees, remembering Brooklyn, what a brick feels like, plucked out of cold mud, with the grass blades still clinging. What is the core, the cure for memory, for looking at this world and seeing another? America. Sure, the whole place is a church, but who knows to what God? One of the things that vexes me a lot too is entertainment. I wrote a piece some while ago called E with a line through it. Against entertainment. But no one would print that. That seemed too mean. Because I'm very mean. So I described myself in this piece from a couple of weeks ago as the entertainer, the anti-tainer. What mineral wealth in lostness? Bring a cracked geo to the eerie mass, citizens quietly discussing their affairs. Discussion leads to diseases and foul weather. The elements are kept in balance by our peace. In pace nostra curabitur mundus, he said, and vanished in the gaunt grey mountains all around Innsbruck. Snowy peaks, hidden cameras see us deep inside the rock. We think are emeralds and cobalt and gold. This diamond ring I brought from a low cloud, for thee alone, words on old radios keeping warm. The wax I model with is softer than your arm. That ringing noise can't be the telephone. Ice melting maybe. Did you say Sonny Rollins? Or was it on the further side of Portugal, where the black sand sticks to white thighs? I am the entertainer. I subtract all your fun and compact it in my own nucleus to peace. Peace, until it rests secure, a sapphire on your palm, among all these soft crystals, music only, oh, Venus, love, made the world stiff enough to stand. Thank you for indulging me and letting me read recent stuff, which I'd like to hear how it sounds, or if it sounds, maybe. This is called A Line in Winter, a line in winter, not a lion. I can steal titles too, but I didn't steal it. I only stole it halfway home. A line in winter. A line in winter goes on forever. No nature confuses rigor, no rubato to burnish its silver shimmer, undistracted from the web. One of us, was it you, saw us strum across the morning sun back then, when the sun was a spider or your mother. Then we have to do nothing but remember. Nothing stops, but that's the real solution? No. Surefire by video, slow march into melody. When it goes slow enough, it turns into matter, elegant material at the footstep of the sea. Here we can't help but go on living. This is Samothrace. We wake up queasy, find ourselves turned into little gods, so many islands to patrol without a hawk. His heart was heavy as a house because, as if the ink alone made up all the news. We see no more than technology lets us be. See what happens when we have no houses. Architecture is the mother of sanity. Deer smell each other's skin from far away. We need walls to let us come together. I wanted love so hard, I wanted bone, nobody home in the salon of the rejected. Everybody is born with a valid ticket, finger the membrane out of his throat. But what if the mother never sang? Would silver girls still speak apocalypse? Each man protecting his feudal fiefdom. The woman drew me with her mind. All chalk came after, at Dover and over, one mark on matter, and began to speak. St. John listening to the book he swallowed. Everything we know becomes our ancestors. Let me go on listening to the wood grain's agenda, our soft meeting. Pauses mid-sentence. One dies away, sustained on the meticulous English horn. We fear all tongues we cannot master. Not even sorrow can go on forever. That word leaps up again to comfort thee, lady, by the linden tree, rabbits everywhere, priests measuring the shadow no light casts. There's a woman in Billy Chernikov who's been writing poems, quite wonderful poems, erotic and sparse at once, that kind of intensity that comes from sparseness. About a series of tarot cards that she had gotten hold of somewhere. I don't know who made the cards, some other person. They weren't the familiar cards that we grew up with in childhood, the Tarot of Marseille, with 80 Waite's deck, that we all wrote about in the 60s and 70s. But I got envious. I think Vincent has seen those cards, those poems of Billy's. Maybe you've seen the cards too?
I have, yes.
I've seen a few of them. But I'm a very envious person, being Irish, and that's how we define our relationship to that other island next door, the big one, with Welshmen all over it. Envy led me to want to write tarot poems too, but I'd be damned if I write about those pictures. So I had to make up a tarot deck. So I have my own tarot deck, which I call I Tarocchi Nuovi, or Major Arcana of the Sacred Ordinary. So I just want to read some of you. You must imagine for each of the items in the tarot, I don't go in for winged chariots and lions and things, but much more mundane, because that's where we live. Mundus, the world, the mundane. Thank God for the mundane. So you must imagine the image of each as a simple line drawing, as simple as you can imagine. Don't have any shading, no trees, no background, nothing, just simplicity. And I'll read a few of these to you. They're about, I'm supposed to be 22 and I have about maybe a few less than that. But I'll read 3 or 4 of them. The glass of water. A man holds it in front of his chest. We don't know what that means. That woman. A man holds it in front of his chest, but his eyes are not on it. They look out at you, viewer, the querent, whatever you are. Unknown to him, or at least unnoticed, there is a woman in the glass, small, perfectly formed, eyes open, rather beautiful she is. And she's looking right at you too. This is Melusina, the elemental daughter of water and air. We need her to live. When the man has drunk his water, all of it, or only some, she will still be there, adrift before his eyes, and yours, floating out from the image into your world, or whatever you call this thing around you, and then she gives it to you. Makes me thirsty. The cellar door. You must imagine the old-fashioned American angled, so this angled house, ground door. The cellar door stands open. It leads down to a little Galilee between the earth and how much of heaven fits in a house. A between place, like between your eyes. Such words, we rest on things, hoping they don't slip off by night. It is day now. You can see this innocent aperture leads gently down. Would you go down there with me if I call you by the name of another? Why should we lie? There are so many ways into a single house. I offer the low path, humid, cool down there, whitewashed stone walls, gentle menace of furnace, some pump dust, cool dust, not so different from remembering. The picture is out of breath. It just wants you to go in, humble yourself to the low ceiling of the actual. Talk to whoever you meet down there. Later you can help him up the stairs. And this is the husband. Charlotte asked earlier how I would draw the husband. We'd see him from behind. He'd be wearing a business suit, receding hairline, but not too much visible of that from behind. You know, the husband. If I had a husband, it would look like that husband. No man in that. The husband. He holds a hammer in his hand. He holds a wounded sparrow in his hand. He holds a yardstick in his hand. He holds a letter in his hand he hasn't finished reading, and never will. He holds a key in his hand. He holds an antique ormolu clock in his hand. He tells old time. He holds a book in his hand. It's open, pages ruffled by wind. He holds a kitten curled up on his palm. He holds a photo of a lost love in his hand. He has forgotten her name. He holds a mirror in his hand but does not look at it. Who knows what he would see? He holds an ear of corn half eaten in his hand. He holds a bottle, perhaps of water in his hand. He is sustained by the simplest things. He holds a rifle in his hand. Does he know how to use it? Not sure. He holds a butterfly net in his hand. He feels ridiculous, but he loves things. He holds his hand out and a dragonfly lands on it. He holds his father's cane in his hand. He holds a big map of China, all open and dangling. He holds a silk stocking draped across his wrist. He holds a branch of holly in his hand. He holds a wad of paper money in his hand. He holds a pair of scissors in his hand. He holds a bell in his hand. He holds a dog leash in his hand, but no dog is there. He holds a wooden flute in his hand. He holds a red bowl in his hand. He holds a kitchen strainer in his hand. He holds a stone in his hand. He holds nothing in his hand. This is called the flower. These pictures, no colors. How can we know a person's name if we can't tell red from green? What color are they? Let me call it blue, hydrangea, my favorite, wet, drenched even with rain or dew. 1,000 flowerets on the big head, Himalayan. Tara holds one in her left hand. A flower like the sky come down to touch you. But what if it's not blue? Who are you then? Are we who we are because someone loves us? Is that all a flower means? And this is the clock. The clock waits. What category do you belong to, comrade? My time, the song says, is your time. Or we, even earlier, make time together. The clock is just an ornament. They put jewels in them to make them go. An ornament, not necessity, like Ruskin's cathedrals, art over utility. Time, too, is useless. Ergo also beautiful. Verweile doch, du bist so schön, cries Faust, risking everything. Not to some pretty girl, but to the passing moment. Beautiful because fleeting. Beautiful for being gone. And this is the last image of the turret. I don't know what picture would show, but this tries to find out. If there were a final card, last trump, a picture all sleek and elegant as you know what, some young body flexed to spring or pleasure, a smooth remembrance, nothing more needs to be said. Divinatory meaning of such a thing? What could that be? You have come to the end of asking. You are oily with answers. When you sit down, you are Isis, and when you stand up, Apollo. When you lie down to go to sleep, you are no one again. It is the picture of a nude young man, or perhaps a woman, half seen through shrubbery. His or her hands are holding something you will never see. Not even when, hours later, when the sun is finally setting and your cup of mint tea is cold, you slip into the picture and become him, become her, and still don't know what you mean. There has someday to be an end to naming things. So, those of you who've been at meetings of mine before know that I have a superstition, by now a compulsion, to end any reading, which I will do now, with the most recent poem finished. Good, bad, or indifferent. This is sort of indifferent. Do I have to know the things I say, or is it just enough to say them and let another mean them? That other, maybe, that Dante hears them talk about down below, the long below. Don't call it hell. Hell, like Hades, is the name of a person. Hell was a woman, Hades a man, but neither ruled where Dante went, or said he went, all ears and eyes, attending the excuses that they used to calm their sufferings, those sufferers who lived there in that place. We heard them talk, how this or that pleased another, close as they could come in their mind to say who that other might be. So one talks and one listens. Between them both, a thing is said. Thanks.